Alright. That was the fastest I think YouTube's ever gone live for me. Holy moly. Hello everybody, welcome to Dungeons and Discords. Just jumping right in. Today's going to be a short session because work sucks. The group has just recently made their way to the gnomish village of Birchyeft, Zook's home. They left the Fortemps villa, Shigun's home, after a series of rather interesting sort of events that occurred there that basically changed life in that place forever.
Interesting is right.
But that's a story for another time. Or you could go and watch the videos. Anyway, during your journey down southwest, the trip itself was generally uneventful. You did run into a group of hobgoblins bearing insignia that you don't recognize. I think a few of you grabbed some of their shields because they were magicka shields that seemed to recognize Hoyd. But then you killed them with fire, so, you know, there's that. Upon making your way into the woods surrounding Birchyeft, good lord. Surrounding Birchyeft.
The locks.
I'm sorry?
They changed the locks.
Yeah, essentially, they seemed to have changed the locks. The waypoints and method that Zook would normally use to get to the village seems to either double back on itself or be changing out of order upon using magical means to sort of determine what was going on. A thin sort of veil of transmutation magic was detected all around, with occasional pockets of illusion magic here and there. Eventually Zook had the idea to simply close his eyes and go off of memory, navigate through the woods out of memory, which the people of his village are more or less prone to knowing how to do, because, well, that's what happens when you're in a gnomish village that has a maze to get into it. You guys approached the sort of like central archway, not exactly an archway, but of trees that had been grown to form an archway or an entrance to the village. You were greeted by Eliwick, the village elder. As you guys sort of wander your way in with your cart, looking upward, you can see a number of structures have been built all over the trees. You can hear just the creaks of some kind of machinery is not the right word necessarily, but you see this sort of pulley system of what appear to be small passenger vehicles or of some kind going from tree to tree. There are what appear to be... I'm sorry?
Steampunk Ewok village.
It's not really even steampunk. It's not powered.
Woodpunk.
There's something else going on. But if who was it that cast Detect Magic? Was it Prudence?
Probably.
I believe. Yeah, just for the sake of ambiance, I'll just say that it's still on, even though it's been like an hour. It's fine. I'm not gonna make you waste a spell slot for something I want to tell you. So, looking around, there's no illusion magic at all, but you do see just quick little flashes of just various types of magic. You see evocation flare up every now and again. Oh, that's right, you'd have to ritual cast it anyway. You see evocation magic occasionally. You see a little bit of transmutation magic here and there, but it's a little difficult to see as it's inside the buildings. The structures that have been built have not been built out of wood that's thick enough to block detect magic, but it is some distance away. Every so often, you see you can hear children playing out sort of past one of the structures, and as Eliwick is just kind of looking at all of you with her arms crossed and looking over towards Zook, you hear as like it looks like an insect or a bee of some kind just zips over her shoulder and bursts into the air between you, and little pieces of metal and gears just clatter to the ground. And you can see Eliwick is still looking at Zook, but has this sort of like edge to her, like she's trying to avoid looking at it and acknowledging that madness is happening around her.
Would I know what this is?
I mean, you'd recognize there are clockwork insects that have been experimented with, none of which have been particularly successful. Most of them end up exploding. But there are similar devices that have been created by various tinkers around the village, and typically what they'll do is they'll give it to a child and say, hey, break this, and then build it better. There's a couple of gnomish children run up, and there are two children that run up and, like, eyes fixated on the debris on the ground, go and they scoop it up and they look up and they see the five of you. One of them goes, "Whoa!"
Hi.
It, the
Hello there.
other one kind of waves at you, Zook. And the one
I
that
wave back.
the one that had stopped is staring at. She is actually staring at Shigun. He says, "You're tall." And
That I
Ellie,
am, young one. What's your name?
"Oh, it's Pip." and Eliwick kind of, "Hey, run along now. We still got talking to do, and you've got to bring that back." And both of them kind of sheepishly turn and look at her and, "Okay," and they dart off, not in the direction they came from. And Eliwick says to Zook, "Well, welcome back. Did you find the stories you were looking for?"
Oh, I more than found stories. But, yeah.
Ah, excellent. I'm sure we'll be glad to hear of them.
It's actually one of those stories that brought me back to here.
Interesting. What kind of stories might bring you back here?
Well,
Not much happening here. She says not much happening here as cable cars glide through the air above her and various small mechanical just devices spring and skitter along the ground.
well, I happen to find myself in the company of a dragon, as you do, and he claimed
She cocks
That-
her brow.
that another dragon had claimed this area.
She kind of looks around and looks back to you. Why would they want this place?
Not really sure.
Well, I mean, I suppose besides all the technology and the magic that we've got, and all the valuable
fun.
items, and of course the fun that we bring to all the many children of this village. But I don't know how useful that would be to a dragon.
Yeah, it's not really something you can hoard.
Well,
Doesn't pile well.
I suppose not. You can't exactly sleep on children's laughter, can you? Well,
Not that I know of.
well, let's get your friends set up. Zook, where was your in this village? Where was your residence? Whether that was his family or whatever else.
I am not prepared to make up names on the spot, but
That's fine. I can make up names
I-
for you.
yeah, I was
I've got a whole list. Xanathar's Guide, where are you? There you are.
I was living with a family of 12 up in a treehouse.
Okay. Erky Durky, Fabin and Todd, Kipper Nipper, Femboodle, Aubrey Oren. Just a whole slew of names.
Yep, that sort of thing.
Is that a magic chant? Some of those sounded like racial slurs.
That sort of thing. And the kids are old enough now that there's probably almost definitely not all of them are in the house. They're just going to be around playing various trades.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'd want to go back there, bring my new friends.
Well, nonetheless, there are a number of lodgings, and some of which have been specifically constructed for those of the taller persuasion.
Yeah.
You could go. I suppose you could go to the Fat Ogre, which is the one nearest to you. That's, I wouldn't say catering to other races, but they have rooms and beds that would probably fit most of you.
Yeah, I think on behalf of my friends here, I would probably want to stay over at somewhere, one of those places with higher ceilings, you know?
Okay. So Eliwick starts wandering off in the direction of the Fat Ogre, and as she's walking, the rest of you, it's most of you are at this point, if not necessarily well-traveled, you've been around, you've seen a lot of different places. You haven't been incredibly far outside the borders of Sundi, save one of you, but you've seen other places, and this place just feels, as you're walking through, the air just feels lighter. Not like thin atmosphere light, but just as you're walking, your armor doesn't feel quite as heavy. Your packs don't seem to be dragging you down as badly. The cart, even the horses pulling the cart, seem to be walking with a little bit more pep in their step. As you're walking through, there are quite a few. Quite a few individuals stop and very openly stare at you as you're going by. Zook, merchants and other such folk are not incredibly rare to come by, but it's not incredibly common that individuals quite as heavily armored come through.
I made friends!
And as a number of them, as they see you, actually, a number of them, they all wave, Zook, Zap! What you been up to? And they, not expecting an answer, they just kind of turn and walk back to what they were doing.
I love them.
So, Prudence, why do things weigh less? It's not exactly that they weigh less. I mean, if you take a second, you just bounce a pebble in your hand, it falls at the rate you expect it to. But it seems that the things that are burdening you don't weigh as heavily on you, if that makes sense. That's a good question.
There's more energy in the air, you know?
Make a nature check. Actually, no, make an arcana check.
Much as we'd like you to believe it's a nature check.
I mean, I was honestly waffling. It could have gone either way. But no, unfortunately, this place has more just innate magic running through it than any place you've ever been. It's not even, your environment of arcane study is very controlled and condensed, and there's a lot of magic, but it does what you want it to. This place is just chaos, and the general feel of the energy of this place reflects that.
Or maybe the magic that you learn up in a tower is like has like weird chains all over it.
It's being held back.
And yeah, like we're just breathing it in, man.
I know. Are we gonna have another high session like we did with that one shaman guy?
No. With the shaman? No. With Vec. No. As you're walking along, Ellie...
Probably someone in the village who would let you do that, but Zook is not friends with that person.
As you're walking, you notice all of your passive perceptions are high enough to notice, and she's not exactly attempting to hide this. Eliwick does occasionally glance at each of you to try and get a bead on, how you're feeling about this place. And as she sees Prudence experiment a little bit with the gravity and so on, you see she has a little, not exactly a smug smirk, but almost like a heh, I remember the first time I did that type of, look on her face. As you continue walking down the path, Eliwick strikes up a bit of a conversation. She says, well, so you said we got stories. Where have you been? Where have you been to? How far? You been outside Sundi?
I'm gonna, start weaving, a big ol' yarn about, all the places I've been and, the sort of shenanigans I've gotten up to. Leaving out several details, including, the thieves' trade, the controversy about the... I'm leaving out several details, including, my rogue stuff.
Oh, okay. Yep, the thieves'
all
stuff.
Of that.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. The controversy about House Tarmyron. I'll leave in the bit about being startlingly good at archery.
Okay.
But at the same time, I made friends with, this adventurer crew, and we've been, going places, doing stuff.
As you're sort of working through and weaving these words, you hear Hoyd at the back sort of grumpy, hey, that's my job. And Eliwick turns and just goes, shh! And turns back to you. Hoyd.
Oh, he wouldn't take that sitting down.
And Hoyd, well, he is sitting in the cart right now because he would not deign to walk if he didn't have to. But
I'm noticing this. I'm going to tell her the story of the hoax of the Goat Man.
Oh, good lord! So as you start turning into this direction, Hoyd, you've got some ideas in your head about how you're going to get back at her, but you allow this to happen for now because now your favorite exploit is coming up. So, I'm
gonna tell her exactly what happened and how,
right.
and how Hoyd over here, our bard, Hoyd over here, our rogue, came up with the idea of telling this whole. Hoyd just straight up quit the call.
Well, no, he actually does have to go back and forth. He has stuff going on, but
that's fair. That's fair.
But he,
I'll tell the story about how Hoyd over here, our party rogue, trapped a goat in a time sphere, and then started to tell this fantastic hoax about the Goat Man, and I'll also tell her about how nobody believed him.
Make a deception check.
Ooh,
Because you are now straight up lying.
Oh god, you underestimate
well, hold on.
the vivacity with which Hoyd can tell a story.
I mean, the
Hold on.
DC is not incredibly high because, you...
Oh, no.
Prudence, are you forcing a 1?
I roll an 11, even with a 1.
Okay, so you rolled an 11. Okay, so with the 1 being forced on you by Prudence, your loving and caring divination wizard, you can tell she's Eliwick has a couple of not questions, might not be the right word. She's a little skeptical of some aspects of the story, but you can tell she believes, or at least is outwardly appearing to believe most of it.
She's corking her.
And it's at the point where you start saying that, Hoyd has just been telling this tale all over the place and no one believes him. Where Hoyd goes, hey, no, the king believed me. So there's that.
The king believed me.
And as you're going along, Eliwick kind of stutters her steps, like she takes a half step. Wait a minute, you met the king?
Oh yeah, I was just getting to that, and then I go into it.
And then you go into the whole thing about that.
Yeah, we talked to the king, and like...
Prudence, which king? Eliwick says, the king, our king.
Yeah, the
King hasn't
yeah.
the first. Well, actually,
Oh,
I want to see what his titles are. I forget what all of his titles are. Let me get the gazetteer out. Let's see. His Brilliant Majesty Olven King Hazendel I, the Defender of Sundi and Protector of the South. Oh, that's a hell of a title. Good lord.
I think it was him we talked to, yeah?
Yeah, that is who you talk to.
So, like, yeah, the very same.
You can see a little sparkle lights up in her eyes and says, "Oh, you're gonna have lots of stories to tell, I bet." Well, anyway, we're here. You see she sort of directs your attention upward, and you can see instead of having most of the structures around have some sort of like a pulley elevator type structure to get up to them, this one has a set of stairs winding around a not impossibly large, but a very, very large old tree. If you've ever seen a redwood, which most of you probably haven't, but if you've ever seen a redwood tree, like, they grow enormous. It's about that big.
We are on Endor.
And there's you can see steps that have been sort of carved into them, and a small handrail along the edge of the trunk for taller individuals to make their way up. You can see up, sort of almost woven into the branches is this, how do I even describe this? Like, it looks like almost like woven basket type material that makes up the walls of this structure. You don't see any light coming through, so you imagine it's either superficial or there's something else going on in there, but you, there is an elevator that goes up to one of the levels of the Fat Ogre. However, it is quite small, and you're not sure whether it would hold you. As well, at the moment, your only frame of reference is watching all of the other gnomes use it, so who knows?
To be fair, like, the context I want to give for what Rurik is feeling like right now, with respect to all the clockwork elevators and stuff, is like a kid going to the mall and like, I want to ride the escalator.
There is something that you notice on one side of the structure. There's this large. It looks to be almost like just an opening in the side that has a lid. And as you're sort of gathering to go up, it swings open like a door, and you just see an enormous, grotesque caricature of what you imagine these people think an ogre looks like, kind of slides out slowly and is projected out about 5 feet from the side of the building, and you hear it go, and and then a bell. Ding! And
Oh, it's Ollie!
and everyone around you cheers. It is now noontime.
It's Ollie the Ogre!
It is now noontime. As being told to you by Ollie the Ogre, who is quite fat. He's basically just a sphere, and then you can see like small little stubby arms and legs that have been built into the sides, and a tiny little like squished up head with a huge nose. And it ever so slowly slides and creaks back into the structure, and the side of the building swings shut. And Eliwick, well,
how you tell time?
Might be the most unique clock I've ever seen in my life.
oh well, we don't necessarily need it, but Colin is very fond of his the one time he encountered an ogre. He loves telling that story, so that's where Ollie comes from. Anyway, I have got lots of things to do. I got food to arrange for all of you. We've got stories to tell. We've got people to wrangle together. You guys not needing anything from me before I scamper off?
Well, thank you for your hospitality all the same.
I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
That's the spelling of his name, by the way. Yes? What's that?
Why the fascination with stories?
Oh, well, I'm sure Zook will tell you, a lot of us tend not to get out too much. So it's really our only way of keeping up with the outside world.
Fair enough. I know I always like a good story. You travel with someone who's quite proficient at telling them, though he might embellish them from time to time.
There is one in particular that we've been...
You hear Hoyt say from the back, "That's me!"
There's one in particular that we've been chasing. There's one in particular that we've been chasing, but we're not done chasing it yet, so I can't spill.
You gotta keep those details close to the chest until you got the full story. Wow.
Yeah, like we're trying to catch some bad guys, but the bad guys are still out there.
You see her expression drop slightly as she makes a few connections in her head. And that's brought you here.
No, the stuff with the dragon has brought me here. This is just a detour.
Ah!
I was gonna come back once I had put together all that stuff.
Ah, I see. Well, that's a bit of a relief. And Prudence says, "Keeping it secret means if we die, the secret dies with us, and they can't be held accountable anymore."
It's more closer to the coast anyway.
And Eliwick kind of gives you an odd look. Prudence, like, not quite sure how to process what you said, but I'm sure she'll work it through in her mind eventually.
He's weird.
Yeah, you've made some rather interesting friends. Well, look forward to seeing you all tonight. There's going to be a feast. I mean, there's always a feast, but this one's now going to be a real feast. We got some real big ones. She looks up at Shigun. And
I'm
I'll be
happy
off.
to try anything new when it comes to food.
And she just spins on her heel and scampers off.
So you have quite the lively village, Zook.
Yeah, comes with the territory, you know? I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Well, I find myself curious as to whether
Ember, don't you dare!
Don't... What? I have nothing to say.
Okay, cool.
I find myself curious if this dragon is actually a thing or not.
Do you think the other dragon could have been lying?
Possible. If by Prudence's account, they are known to be deceitful.
Yeah, but what would he stand to gain from that? So if that dragon truly wanted this village, and there was no dragon here, there'd be nothing stopping him.
Okay. So Hoyd, I will keep that in mind. Do you guys head up to the
I'm really gonna do that.
head up to the fat ogre?
Yeah, if that's where they want us to go, sure.
All right. So Zook, you lead the horses over to what essentially passes for a stable. They're not since you guys are since your village is used to bringing in merchants and so on. The fat ogre itself doesn't have a stable, but there is one very close by, and they're able to board up your horses.
Yeah, of course there's one nearby. Like, place is built as much for animals as it is for us.
Yes. Yeah, so of note, on that note, the rest of you have been noticing there's quite a lot of like small wildlife just all over. Like, when you go to like a city and there's just squirrels everywhere, it's kind of like that. But there's all kinds of like rodents. You see there's just a deer kind of casually walking down one of the streets. So it's a relationship that the village has with the nature around it. Prudence says, a green dragon's horde does not only. Green dragon horde. I think you mean is not only. A green dragon's horde is not only in gold and treasure. It is also in the people it controls.
Interesting.
Sorry, I've gotten in the habit of reading what you write verbatim, and that just threw me for a second. All right, so yeah, you walk it over to one of the stables, and the stable hand there kind of sees the cart coming in, and he hops on up, and he says, Zap, you got horses now. And he looks at the rest of the group.
My friends do.
You got friends now.
Yeah.
Awesome, excellent. That will be a silver.
Oh, absolutely, and I give him a silver.
Okay, you hand him off a silver, and Hoyd grumbles and comes out of the cart, and as you're passing the silver, he is... Actually, no, he can't do that right now, so never mind. His fuckery does not extend very far past the end of his own fingertips. Wait, is there something that you can do that I forgot you had the ability to do?
With Hoyd, yes.
With Hoyd, it's always yes.
Can you sleight of hand? So, what would you do? Would you go up and take it from him?
Reminded of a specific scene of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, okay. So all right. Make a perception check to see if you can find where his own silver would be. He has also already been paid by Zook, so there's that.
Yeah, I'm already paying him.
Not a silver per horse.
Like, I'd say hold your horses, but that's his job.
Oh no. Oh no, oh no.
You made the mistake of sending us to a gnome village. Expect puns and other general fuckery.
I know. Alright. What was the 24? I don't know what... Oh, perception. Yes, sorry. Oh, did you roll your, I think it was titanium, got you? Is that the one that you're using? Heavy as shit, isn't it? Oh, that's right. Yep, I got you the ancient bronze. Yes. Anyway, maybe it was your wife that I got the titanium for. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Glancing around, you notice he has a small pouch at his side. So unless you want to try and stealthily sleight of hand one off of him, that would be pretty much the only way you'd get it. Looking around, you don't see any place that necessarily would be a place to store money, at least not in the front stable area. there is a small, like, shack off to one side. That's probably where they do the business. And it's also part of the not warehouse, but part of the storage area where, like, the feed and so on would be. Minor detail. Okay, cool. So the stable hand brings your horses in and deftly, without help, detaches the harnesses and brings them into one of the stalls. The cart itself is resting just inside the edge of the stable. And the rest of you return back to the fat ogre. Heading upward, you climb the stairs, and it's an interesting experience climbing these stairs because, you know, they're straight, they're sturdy, you don't feel like you're going to slip off, but the guardrails on...
Actually, I'll take the lift.
So you'll take the lift. Okay, so you take the lift, which goes at about the same rate as they walk up, unless you tell it to go faster. But it's an interesting experience, the rest of them walking. Okay, I guess I'll cut here. Who does anyone else want to take the lift?
I can. I will if I can fit.
I'm not convinced if I'll fit or if it'll support me. So take the stairs.
Rurik and Shigun both, you start to walk toward it, and there's just a person who's walking by, one of the gnomes walking by. He has a little pipe in his mouth, and I don't think that'll support you. You're a bit too, and he says in Gnomish to Zook, what's the word? Heavy, fat. I don't want to say fat. You know what I'm trying to say. And he's saying this in Gnomish to Zook.
No, Rurik. I'm not sure. I don't know. It might not go if you stand on it.
Too heavy, aren't I?
And you can see the older, sort of like this older gnomish figure just continues walking on by.
You and your armor.
Prudence, you can probably fit in the lift. You'll definitely physically fit into it.
Rurik will take the stairs, but be very slow and very dejected about it.
Alright. Oh, you get your head hung down.
I'll take the stairs as well because I'm 5'11", and I probably won't fit in it.
Okay, so Prudence, you wanna go up the stairs as well. Hoyd will most certainly go onto the lift, and he kind of stands there.
I am banning Hoyd from the lift. He can take the next one.
Who would hang on to the outside of?
Hoyd's gonna get on the lift and then call an Uber.
Oh,
like, maybe he can take the next one, but he's not getting on the one that I'm in.
All right, so as you see Hoyd approach the lift, you pull the toggle and it starts rising as he's walking up.
Yeah, I hit the door close button.
Right, and Hoyd is just watching you go up with his hands clasped behind his back, and he says, "Well, I guess I'll just have to take the next one, won't I? Won't I?" Yeah, no, Shigun and
And then I shout down at him, "Can't you fly?"
Can he? I actually don't have his character.
I have no idea if this is true.
I don't know if he has fly. Do you have fly, Hoyd? Oh, Hoyd doesn't have fly. Prudence can fly. But...
Hoyd wishes he had fly.
You don't want to give him fly. That's too dangerous.
Yeah, Shigun and Rurik, each of you individually
I'd rather
with
have fly than Dimension Door.
Well, depends on what you're doing. So yeah, Shigun and Rurik, just for reference, when you have your armor and packs on, both of you weigh close to 300 to 400 pounds.
I believe it. I figured as much.
There's a lot of stuff that you're wearing. And now you have shields, so...
I mean, I've always had shields, but now
fortunately,
I have
both
shield.
of you are pretty strong, so you're not coming close to your carrying capacity, but...
Right.
Yeah. Yes, Prudence is just extremely dense. All right. So as you guys are walking up the stairs, it's an interesting experience walking up these stairs because, as I mentioned, the railing is on the inside, not the outside. So as the stairs feel sturdy and they don't feel like you're gonna fall off, but you do kind of reflexively hug the center because there's nothing between you and the ground as you're going up. So you head on up and make your way in, and as you get up to the top, there's a little like niche cut into the bottom. And who is the first person to walk up? Not a big deal, just for reference.
I figure I'd go first because Rurik is slow and dejected.
Yes.
Well, Prudence has decided that he wants to go first.
That's
so.
fine. I don't care.
Prudence, you get up to the... yeah, he's got the glasses on, so he can see better than... just better.
Even though they're vanity glasses and have no actual effect.
Yeah, well, you know. You get to the third to last step, and you can see what looks like a trapdoor above you. You get to the third to last step, and you feel it shift beneath you. And there's this sort of like sickening lurch moment where it doesn't move a lot, but it's like a movement you weren't expecting. And you clutch the banister for a second just to maintain your balance. And the trapdoor kind of lifts. It lifts about halfway, and then it just slides downward out of view. And then you're just looking upward into this tavern.
How about that?
And Princess, that's probably not healthy for everyone. And so you go ahead and you enter. Yeah, there. So the first thing that you notice as you're walking in is the heat. This space is much warmer than the surrounding air. Not uncomfortably so, but more than you were expecting. Like, walking physically into the temperature, practically. And you can see a number of individuals milling about. There are, in this space, there are close to 30 people, all gnomes, roaming around. And there are a few that you can see are playing games. You can see one is like up on a table doing a little jig. And off to the side, off to the right, or sorry, left. I'm motioning with my left hand, and you obviously can't see that. So, off to the left, you see Zook the lift just comes up, and Zook meets you all at the top. And Zook, you step off, and it automatically begins to sort of lower down where Hoyt is waiting.
Hello.
He's waiting. I don't know if he's waiting patiently, but he's waiting.
The lifts from Helena Prison.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's a blast from the past.
Legend of Dragoon?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I finished
the playthrough of it recently.
Yeah, the game's
and your talk of these lifts reminded me of those.
Anyway, yeah, there are lifts in one of the prisons, so and it's a pain in the ass if you don't know where you're going. Anyway, as you come up, there's a and so you look to the left, and there's the lift, and then you look over to the right, and you see the ogre, the statue-esque ogre figure has now rotated and is facing inward toward the bar, and it's essentially looming over the bar. It's probably about... The thing itself is probably only about 5 feet tall, but compared to everyone else in this room, it's enormous.
Hi, Nibbler.
And Prudence, you step up first, and there's a gnome that notices you nearby. And he calls over and says, "Kaelin, you got guests. You gotta do something about it." And you hear this rough voice. It carries over the sound of everything. And he goes, "Shut it." And you see, climbing over the top of the bar, this very stout looking gnomish figure. He has a reddish blouse on with little frills on the sleeves at the end. Pair of sort of tan slacks, you can see a number of hoops coming off the top of the belt area, and there's just like a number of small tools that are tucked into it.
Oh.
And he climbs over the bar, strides across the room. The room itself is about probably 50 foot by 50 foot. It's a pretty large space. And he stands there with his hands on his hips and looks up at all of you. Well, good thing I made the ceiling tall, huh?
Hi!
And he turns and looks at Zook. Aye, are they with you?
Yeah, they're with me.
Oh, he looks up at who looks up at Prudence. My condolences. All right.
I know.
You're looking for a room then? You got a place to bed 'em up? Your family's been looking for you. They got a lot of extra rooms now. Although, and then he turns and looks at Shigun. Although I don't know if they'd all fit, so... Well, anyway.
Everybody growing up so fast, you know?
What brings you all up to the Fat Ogre? Other than the fact it's probably one of maybe 5 buildings that'll fit you.
Oh, that's one of them.
Prudence says, that's it. That's the only reason. And Kaelin looks up at you. Wise guy. What is it with you and picking up wise guys? Well, come on. Yeah, and it's at that moment when the lift stops and Hoyd is up at the top. And he says, oh, I heard you talking about me.
Hoyd sneezes while on the
With
lift.
me too.
Yeah, and Kaelin looks over at you, Hoyd, and goes, wise guys. He turns, and he takes a couple of steps and turns back at all of you and says, come on. You follow him up, and unlike... So most of the inns that you've stayed at, there's been like a tavern space and then an upstairs where the rooms are. This building's not built that way. There's a tavern space in the center of this vaguely rectangular room. It's kind of roundish in some ways. And you can see probably 12 doors just around the outside. All of them the similar sort of circular wicker shape as the large opening to the side where where Ollie pops out.
Why the 12?
Just a convenient number to fit in the space, I suppose. And he goes up to one of them, and you can see he reaches like practically into the door, like reaching into a bush. And he grabs something and yanks it, and you can hear something snap, and he hands whoever the closest person is. He holds what looks to be a small metallic key, but it doesn't have like the right cylindrical structure with a little tooth on the end. It looks almost like a stick made out of copper, if you will.
Ooh.
And he just holds it out to whoever's nearest.
Prudence is typing.
Well, I'll offer to pick it up so I can demonstrate how it's used.
Okay. Yeah, so you take the key, and
That's
you
a
find...
key?
Yeah. And you find a particular place, which is not the same place that it was pulled from, on the door, and you actually slot it into a space between some of these woven branches. You hear a k-tuk, and then the door just slightly opens. And he looks at the group.
Does it like complete a circuit that unlocks the door?
Maybe. And then the door swings open slightly, and you pull the twig out, and you hear another click. Push the door shut, and then you pull on it a little bit to demonstrate that it's locked again.
Fascinating.
Interesting key design.
And he...
This, of course, demonstrates nothing useful, because they could not see inside the door to see where I put it.
Yeah. Like, he has to... Zook or somebody will have to show you where on the doors it will fit, because his hands are tiny, and they go into the bush, and you don't see them anymore. How sturdy do these doors look? I mean, you can't see through them. So similarly to the sort of wicker appearance on the outside, so either they're... Well, so what I mean is they're not so thin that you can just see right through them. It's not like a single layer woven basket where there's holes. It appears to be pretty thick. The door itself, when it swung open, you can see it's almost about 5-6 inches thick. And you're not sure if it's all just this woven tree branch material or what, but there's definitely some substance to them. And at least when Zook and Kalen were pulling on them, they seemed to have some heft to them. They had to put a little bit of oomph behind it to open the door. Kalen looks up at all of you, and he looks over to Zook, and he says, "Well, the rooms will fit too. But if you want, I've got enough rooms for all of you. If you want an individual rooms."
I don't mind sharing rooms.
Whatever's easiest, it doesn't matter to me.
And then he looks over to Zook for a more firm answer. I mean, you seem to gather that as you're walking through this, the way people are talking to you, they assume you're the leader of the group.
Yeah. Oh. Let's have 2 rooms, and I can stay with my family.
Alright, suit yourself. Hang on, go to the right page. No, I don't need to know how much bagpipes cost. Damn it, Player's Handbook.
Yeah, that's what we need. Giving bagpipes to Hoyd.
Give him ideas. He doesn't need to know that.
I mean, you listen closely.
The Player's Handbook is like spontaneous lore attack.
You can hear if you listen closely, you can hear faintly somewhere there's some kind of pipe instrument going. Could be a bagpipe, who knows?
Oh no.
It's probably an organ.
Or
an organ. Or it could be an organ. There's plenty of those built into the trees.
Yeah. But it could be bagpipes.
You do... Yeah, I mean, you do see a number of people around this tavern have instruments just, like, resting or slung across their back. So you gather it's not an entirely uncommon pastime. And he says, "Alright, well, 2 rooms will run you about 4 gold a night. That includes food and drink. Well, it doesn't include all your drink, within reason." I've changed his accent, I don't know, whatever.
Of course, sir.
And he says,
fair to me.
and he kind of looks over the group. He looks over to you, Hoyd. "You look like the money bags of the group." Fuck, what accent am I going with now? God damn it. You look like the money bags of the group. I take it you'd be willing, well, perhaps you'd not be willing to part with 4. You can't exactly stay wealthy if you use it, nah. But it'll still cost you 4 gold for 2 rooms, nonetheless. Okay. You willingly cover.
Oh boy.
You pull out 2 gold pieces and sort of hold them between 3 fingers. Do you do any fuckery, or do you just...
Look for a dice game. Oh boy.
Alright, so you hold out the gold pieces and you hold them out. And he looks at you and he looks at the way you're holding the coins, and he carefully holds his hand out, fully expecting some kind of fuckery. But you just drop them into his hands, all 4 gold pieces. And he closes his hand, you can hear the coins clink. And he says, "Alright, Zook, you know how to open that one." You can see as he's walking, he's got a bit of a limp on one side. He kind of shuffles over to the next adjacent door and reaches in. And so let's see, who's going to be in...
Also, I tell him you're right to be wary. He plays tricks.
I figured he looks the type. God damn it. I think I'm the only person that would get that out of everyone here.
I got it.
So let's see, who's gonna be in the room? That was the first
My
door.
mom has thyroid issues.
That's fair. Well, I'll just say this is Rurik and Shigun's room because this is easiest. He pulls one of you over and he shows you have to very carefully reach in to one portion. It's toward like the middle, so he actually has to reach up a little bit to get it in. And there's a small. This one appears to be some sort of silvered material, and you can see almost two contacts that are silvered, and the key sort of slots into both of those. And as this fits into place, you hear this locking mechanism unlocking the door. Ever so slightly swings open. Of note, as these doors move, they don't make a lot of sound. Like, you can hear the wood rubbing against the wood, but it's not like or anything. You know, these are very clearly well maintained.
Interesting lock system.
You like it? Came up with it myself.
Quite clever.
Very unique, too.
Oh, well, stop. Tell me what you really think.
No, I'm being serious. I've never seen anything like it.
He looks over to Zook. I like your friends. They got good taste.
Yeah.
Alright, well...
Plus, you don't get a lot of gnomish tinkery out there.
I suppose we hoarded a bit here, don't we? Oh well.
Yeah.
Well, I got other patrons to deal with, so I'll fuck off and get out of your hair. And he turns and he just starts to limp away. Hoyd, if you actually want to look for a dice game, make a perception check.
Oh boy. Is Hoy just gonna gamble with every single tavern and inn we go to?
Only the ones that try to fleece him.
Well, only the ones that I allow him to, let's be honest.
Okay, that's fair.
I may do that one off session though, so we'll do it later. But if you'd like to find them,
is there even gambling here?
I mean, you know this. No, not really. They're just playing games for fun. But that would have been something that Hoyd. I don't think Hoyd's paying attention right now, so I'll roll for him. What die do I want to roll? Do I want to roll my poop die? I'm gonna roll my poop die for him.
That's right.
Yeah,
Either he's busy or doesn't actually want to roll for.
Oh boy, that's a 4. The die's tiny. I know you can't see it, but that's a 4. Plus, boy. I should get his sheet up. Hang on. I don't know his bonus. I know his wisdom modifier, but I don't remember whether he's proficient in it or not. Oops, that's not what I wanted.
I like this music selection.
Dungeons and Discords.
EG.
Oh yeah, I don't have you guys as level 9 character sheets, by the way. You should probably get those to me.
Wait, what?
I only have up to your level 8 character sheets.
Oh. I swore we supplied new character sheets for that.
I'm sure you did, I just forgot to upload them. Let's see. Perception. Okay, he has proficiency. But he has +0 to wisdom, so +3. So he got a 7. Yeah, no. Hoyt, you got a 7 on perception, because I rolled for you, because I was busy. You do see a number of people playing games around. +4? Oh, because because you're level 9 now. Still, 8. You see a number of games being played around, some with dice, some with cards, some with what appear to be these esoteric-looking game pieces that are being shuffled around the table.
Chess.
That's right.
But, yeah, So you see a number of games being played around. However, Zook, do you choose to share what you know about this place with regard to gambling? In that
No.
Okay. You let Hoyd continue on in his blissful ignorance. Yes, well, here we call them icosahedrons, so...
It's not my fault everything in Star Wars needs a stupid name.
I thought they were called dice.
No, they were called Chance Cube.
Oh, and yeah, in episode 1, yeah, nothing's just a die.
I mean dice.
Dice. Ah! I am
What?
being pinged. Anyway, okay. So where to? Kalen's shuffled off. You now have 2 keys, 1 bronzed, 1 silvered. Who knows whether they're solid metal or not. I only have like 5 songs in this playlist though. I need to get more tavern music. Alright. Prudence says, now that we're here, I have no idea what we should do. Any ideas? It is like early afternoon, by the way. So.
I'm
I suppose we could just wait around till dinner.
Hoyt says, well, we could have some conversations with the locals. See, I'm translating what he means into what he says.
I'm a bit more perplexed by this conspicuous lack of draconic activity.
Yeah, everything's too normal. You know,
Princess-
as far as gnomish.
That's a wonderful idea, Hoyd. I could stand to find honest paying work. You gonna go look for it? Okay.
There's not really mercenary work around here.
Well, that's not necessarily what he's looking for. Everyone needs a wizard sometimes, Zook.
I mean, maybe among the humans, but everyone here knows magic. So I'm not sure what really you're bringing to the table.
Oh,
Are you gonna get into a magical dick measuring contest with a wizard?
Oh boy.
Ooh boy.
Literally, forest gnomes have starting spells.
Wizard slap.
Right, I mean, right, this place is magic as fuck. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to downplay it, I just find that funny.
It's like, oh, this place does not seem in particular need of wizards.
He's on the crowbar.
So are you guys just having this conversation just in the bar area? In the tavern area?
I seem to go to places any.
Alright. You guys just find a table and begin to discuss. You can see a number of the people around start to steal some conspicuous looks over in your direction. Zook, you obviously recognize most of the people. Some people are only distant acquaintances, but there's a couple of people you recognize. And very occasionally, every once in a while, at one of the other tables, there's a little flash and sparks, and just very light cheers come by. But it happens frequently enough that you gather, oh, this is just a thing that happens.
You know, I should say that despite the impression, the wonderful impression that we've given you so far, most of us are not very good hosts.
Well, I'm having fun.
Yeah,
Not-
all I need is a bed and some food.
Not in response to what you just said, but Prudence says, you'd be surprised at how useful a wizard can be. For example, I doubt it's easy for most gnomes to conjure up jewelry from thin air.
Why? Why would we want to do that.
To fuel more spells, so you can conjure more jewelry, obviously. For social events, of course.
Well, that's not how that works here.
Like there's a bit of culture shock going on, don't you think?
This is something you would have noticed walking up. The amount of jewelry seems to be fairly limited. It's mostly, you can see like earring chains, where they'll have a stud up in the cartilage area and a chain down to the lobe. Generally speaking, not too many people are wearing jewelry. You see the occasional amulet, rings. There's actually quite a lot of rings. But other than that, not a lot. Prudence, you say, of course it's not.
And just as many of them, are brightly colored rocks as are gems.
Right, you can see
like stuff like turquoise.
Right, either semi-precious gems or like you actually, looking closely enough at one of the people at a nearby table, you can see they have what appears to be just a piece of granite or some other type of very simple stone in a little pendant around their neck. It's very interesting seeing. Prudence says, oh, you don't see that, yeah. No quote marks, which means you don't say it aloud.
Zook, given the magical affinity of this place, I wonder if you might know anyone here familiar with anything regarding the Abyss.
Do I? Ember, do I?
Make a, see, maybe you. There are a couple of people who come to mind who might know, but it's not been a topic of conversation you've ever been involved in. Let's see if I can find it. I gotta remember what it's called. Hold on. Where are you? Page 293. I gotta go into the appendices to remind myself what some of these things are.
I'm just gonna say I don't know if anyone would know about that.
I mean, there are definitely a few people who are either scholars of magic or scholars of religion. But when it comes to religion in general, I mean, most people... let's see. Probably Obadai. Generally speaking, it's just kind of the worship of your primary gnomish deities tend to be very... not wishy-washy is not the right word, but they tend to not have very fixed religious practices. It's just oh, actually, oh, interesting.
They're a wizard about.
It'd be probably Garl Glittergold. God, that's a name I haven't said in a while. Garl Glittergold.
I was just thinking him.
The old, yeah. Well, the creation myth of him is that he was a gnome one day and he managed to trick his way up into the pantheon.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's the actual. That's the actual.
What was? Hold on. What was he? Was he the guy who who pranked the goblin god into getting stuck in a dungeon?
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
Who tricked, oh god, what's his name? Maglubiet, I think.
The name?
Yeah, we're not trolls, but we do a little trolling.
It's the goblin god of war.
So he achieved godhood through deceit.
Yes, he more or less achieved godhood
Let's
through deceit.
not tell Hoyd this story.
Yeah, we don't want to give him any ideas.
Oh, Hoyd's sitting right here.
No,
Oh, no,
not
sorry.
troll.
Thank you, Prudence. It's kobolds. He fucked with the god of kobolds, not the goblins. Thank you.
We're not trolls, but we do a little trolling.
But the worship of Garl Glittergold is be silly. Ta-da!
Yeah, so we're doing it right now.
So when it comes to stuff like that, it's a little bit. I mean, the topics such as the abyss or even alternate planes, not a big topic of conversation here.
I didn't think so, but I figured if this place is as inundated with magic as it is, I thought I might as well look around and see if I could find anyone who might be able to help me with my search.
Okay, why did I bother looking in the Pantheon section? I could have just looked in the Gnome, race section. Whatever. My brain is stupid right now.
I'm not necessarily looking for anything religious. I'm just wanting to try to find a lead on how to deal with this demon nonsense.
But yeah, I mean, in that sort of regard, then there are a couple of names that spring to mind. Maybe.
Well, we could pay a visit to a local wizard if there's time, and also if there's a local wizard.
Well,
Could be.
I mean, I mean, there's always Roywin Horcus Borcus. That's your resident arcanist. So that's a possibility.
I could we could take the shortcut to Vesper Bay.
Maybe we could drop in by.
I mean, Honoroi could just stay with us.
Oh yeah, Honoroi is. I keep forgetting Honoroi's here.
I feel terrible. Easily forgot.
They're not appearing in this film.
Maybe like last session when we were all outside and then
And got lost in the woods.
did we have a moment where we exited the woods and then I went back in by myself, or did we have a moment of that? Because we might have just left him outside the woods.
There was a moment. You didn't exit the woods, but you went to a landmark and stopped, and then you ventured forward alone to try and get your bearings.
Well, I hope we didn't leave him in the woods.
No, Honoroi is here, and Honoroi this whole time is just looking around with just pure wonder.
Childlike awe and innocence.
I'm
Like,
good, I'm not
like
the only
you
woman.
ever seen that video of a young girl who sees a train for the first time and she's like, wow!
No, but now I want to.
I want this video now.
I'll see if I can find it. But yeah, that's basically what's running through his head right now is, what is that? Oh, what is that? Look at that! Ah! What is it? They did that in my head! And he's just having a little bit of brain gear lockup, trying to process what he's seeing.
That's exactly how I would react if I were in this kind of area.
Well, you are in this kind of area.
Yes, and that's why I'm acting that way.
If you want to get a third room, I can just hand wave and say you've paid 6. That's fine. If Hoyd wants to pay another 2 to get another room.
I don't know if there's enough beds.
Ostensibly the rooms fit
Share a
2.
bed. We're married.
Not in game.
Well, okay, if we're
Not yet.
paying
I can fix that. I have the magic to do it.
if we're paying enough,
Oh, yes, sir.
if we're getting enough rooms to fit all 5 of the not gnomes, then I might as well stay in the extra bed.
Not gnomes.
Okay, yeah. So Hoyd, if you would like to pay for a third room for Honoroi, and why do I keep getting notification noises? Stop it. For Honoroi, well, you can say Honoroi and Shigun probably share a room. Rurik and Zook. And then everyone's favorite coupling, Prudence and Hoyd.
That works.
Alright. Cool. So what's the plan? Where are we going? What we doing?
Well, if
I know,
I could ask.
I heard a couple of ideas floated. I just didn't hear like a plan. So.
Well, we might want to like visit the Mr. Abracadabra or whatever his name was.
Roywin Horcus Porcus?
Yeah.
She's the resident arcanist, yes.
Man, her name might as well be Abracadabra.
Hey, for the record, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, page 178. I'm not making this up. This is a canon name for gnomes.
I love it.
What was it again?
Here, I'll type her name. Roywin Horcus Porcus.
That's an amazing name.
Porcus.
Well, we could like have a visit to Miss Horcus Porcus. If, like,
So, am
She might know
am I
about
hearing
this.
am I hearing a rousing round of split the party?
Oh boy. I mean, you can. It's just we've only got about 40 minutes left in this session, so.
no, we shouldn't. We shouldn't.
Be...
I'm the only one who knows the way around.
Right. This place, by the way, is not laid out in any sensible manner. It's just a bunch of trees, and there are sometimes trails between them. It's
Yeah.
There is, obviously with the structures above and the cable cars going between them, there is a semblance of a structure and an order to it. But you're not used to the way navigating around like this, and you'd have to. I would probably, if you were away from Zook, I'd probably make you roll survival.
It's sort of like a very messy office. Like, it is like entirely usable. And the way that it's organized is that you just know where everything is.
Right. It makes
gotcha.
total sense if you know where everything is. If you don't, forget it.
Well, I'm more than happy with doing things as a group.
Same.
I just wanted to throw out that I'd like to see if we can look for a potential lead on information regarding the Abyss or anyone who might know anything about this reversing the effect of this ritual bingo.
She might also know something about this potential dragon business, if that's actually a thing.
That's also true. I also kind of want to around about that.
So, yeah, I say let's talk to her.
Because we may have been duped by that dragon, which I would be all for, because that means there's no problem. But
it also makes you wondering why?
Yeah, to what end? The dragons aren't known for being stupid, so if he were to trick us, he would have a plan other than screwing with us.
Maybe it was to distract us so he could go do something else.
Alright.
But I doubt that because it's not like we put it.
So you guys put your packs down, take a load off for a few minutes. You lock the doors, you bring the key with you. The third key is what appears to be sort of like a rose gold type color. So you have a silvered, you have a goldish, and you have a rose gold colored, essentially a little twig. It's about maybe 4 inches long. And you head out. You leave the Fat Ogre, and on your way out, remind me, Hoyd, do you need to maintain line of sight with Major Image? Does it have to stay within the spellcasting range, or can you cast it and leave? I suppose I could just look up the spells just myself, but...
What is prompting this question?
Oh, don't worry about it. Let's look at the spells. Major Image. Good object. So, phenomenon appears an object you can see within range and lasts the duration. As long as you are within range. Although it doesn't say that it doesn't say it disappears. It just says you have to be within range of the illusion in order to cause it to move. Yeah. So if you're within 120 feet, you can make it move, but it won't disappear if you step outside that range. As the image changes location, you can alter appearance so its movements appear natural for the image. Yeah. Okay. So on your way out, I shouldn't have closed the book because I need to major illusion or major image. So Hoyd, go ahead and mark off a third level spell slot. because I remember things. As you're leaving, Hoyd kind of hangs back a little bit, and you see he reaches out and casts Major Image. That makes the ogre go from this grotesque parody to what appears to be a fully living and breathing ogre. He doesn't move at first, and as the rest of you have started walking down the stairs, and Zook, you're taking the lift down, Hoyd, you're waiting by the lift to take the lift down, and just a couple of people nearest to it kind of catch something out of the corner of their eye, and they look up to it, and they look back to what they were doing, and then they look back up to it, and you can see just the sudden notice of the ogre start to spread through the room. And it's at this moment when the lift comes up, Hoyd, you step onto the lift, pull the toggle, and you move out of sight, leaving the chaos to be off. So who knows what that's gonna do off camera.
Probably not much. Gnomes are good with image and familiar with the concept of pranks.
Sure, but you know, getting from A to B, it's more about the journey than the destination.
Yeah, true.
Speaking of
It
the
might win
journey,
us some papers.
speaking of the destination,
It's the effort that counts.
I headcanon that the ogre looks like Orgamon.
it does not. Ogremon's not fat.
So what?
And this thing is real fat. Anyway,
Pokemon also doesn't close.
It really doesn't.
all right. So you make your way around, and Zook, you have to guide them. There's a couple of moments when you take a quick turn or something, and the group struggles to keep up with you, and you are like, "Oh right, these people don't know where they're going." But you got little legs, so it's pretty easy to keep up with you. You make your way over, and the little the building that you come to, it's one of the buildings that's sort of up in a tree, but you notice it's, unlike some of the other structures, it doesn't appear to be built into or on top of any tree. It appears to be suspended in the air between two trees. You see a series of ropes sort of holding it up in place, and it looks, unlike most of the other structures, it looks like a house just up in the air. Like a standard human dwelling. Smaller, for no
Like the guy from Up got stranded in a forest.
Basically, yeah. Like you just see, you get to where you're going, and Zook kind of just looks up, and you follow his gaze, and there's a moment where it's one of those, like, something looks wrong, and you can't quite put your finger on it, and then you look at it for a second longer, and suddenly everything pulls into focus, and you're like, oh right, that's not what houses look like here. Because to you, your first impression is, oh yeah, there's a house. Wait, no, it's in the air. Wait, no other house looks like this. Yeah, so Zook, you call...
Presumably, like, Zook, like, 3 to 5 years ago, like, had a moment in, like, his first human village where it's like, oh! Like...
Right, that's where that design comes from. I get it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So-
Zook had that moment the first time he left the village. You're like, wait, this is what all houses look like. Whoa, weird.
That's fine.
Okay.
Racist against houses.
You call up to Roy, as she likes to be called, and you see one of the windows shutters kind of open up, and you can see what appears to be younger gnome female, sort of very neatly tied back, reddish hair. And she leans out of the window, says, "What? Oh, hey, you're back. Give me a second." She kind of snaps her fingers, and the cabling all on the side of the house starts to shift, and the whole structure just lowers to the ground. And then you can see there's a small impression in the ground that it just slots into almost. Roy leaves the window, and you can see her door open up. And the structure's definitely not made for people of most of your statures, but it is. You might be able to fit with some effort. And Roy opens the door, and she looks up at all of you, and she looks back to Zook, and she says, "Well, I bet you got some real interesting stories to tell."
Oh, yes.
Well, I look forward to hearing them. What brings you by my humble abode?
Yeah.
So you haven't gone into the building yet. You're still on the outside, but Prudence, go ahead and make an insight check to see what sort of person is Roy. Unless you want to wait until you're inside so you can see her house. It's up to you. Okay.
Well, different things. Mostly my friends here have got some questions about some magic things that they're wondering if you might be able to help with.
Well, if there's anything I know, it's going to be magic. And she looks over very pointedly at you, Prudence. She sees a fellow practitioner when she knows a fellow practitioner when she sees it. Just looking at the way she's carrying herself, and it's interesting. You look at the way she's dressed, and you're reminded of something, and you're not quite sure what. And then you realize that she's wearing robes, very similar to the ones that you used to wear, but they're not correct. If you take my meaning, she's not wearing them like robes. She's got it like slung over one shoulder, and there's a small chain holding it up in place, almost like a little capelet, similar to the one Zook wears. But this one has a hood. You can see coming off the back. Yeah. Prudence, you nod, and say Prudence, and she strides right up to you, Prudence, and holds her hand up to you, and she says, "Roywin Hocus Porcus. Pleasure to meet a fellow practitioner. A lot of these lot know a little bit about the magic, but they don't know," she kind of taps her head, "they don't know what makes it tick. Well, they make things tick. You know what I mean."
I like you.
Well, so, you said you had some questions. Prudence, you shake her hand. "Likewise, Hocus Pocus, I would be very happy to exchange knowledge with you." And she kind of slyly looks up at you and says, "Is that what they're calling it these days?" And she kind of gives you like a little punch on the... Would be a punch in the shoulder if you were gnome height, but it's more like your upper thigh. Just giving you a rough time. Oh, you don't get it. Prudence definitely doesn't get it.
Rurik, you had something.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello. Rurik. Oh, I don't get many dwarves around these parts. I don't think I've ever seen a dwarf. Not in person, anyway. Not since I left the school.
Well, I'm honored to make your acquaintance with your first dwarf.
And she kind of,
and
she strides up to you, and she kind of, like, is peering at you, and she's listening, but she's also just kind of examining your physicality and the way that your armor is settled on your body and stuff, and it's a little weird, but, you know, you roll with it.
I was hoping you might be able to,
She's microaggressing you.
I had a couple of questions of my own as well. I may not be a practitioner in the same sense as you or Prudence, but...
She interrupts. "Oh, no, of course not. You got that big holy symbol slung around your neck. Of course, you got a god backing you up. Neat. Anyway, I'm sorry. Where are my manners? You had questions. No, wait, where are my manners? Come in, come in. And she just, without waiting for a response, just goes back into her house.
I'll follow.
So Zook, easy to follow. The building's made for you.
Yeah. It's like finally reasonable
Proportions.
The tables are the correct height.
Yes, there you go.
This is such a load off the mind.
The door is about 4 feet high. The ceiling in this structure is about 5 feet high. So those of you that are taller are going to have to crouch to get in.
Okay.
So Roy,
I have a potion that will shrink you.
Oh yeah, you could use your potion of diminution. It lasts an hour, right?
I think so. It's only an hour.
Well, I say only. This whole conversation probably won't even take that long. But Prudence, as you
If you want to feel more cozy,
you duck carefully and very gingerly walk in, and unlike your initial impression, so your initial impression was one of just pure fascination. You gather, humanoids come by, but not many talk to her, and she is. And now, with the added information of glancing around her home, she is most definitely a wizard, or at minimum, some kind of scholar of magic. You can see research information. You see in one corner, there's just sort of this jumbled pile on a workbench of just various mechanical pieces. So she clearly does some tinkering of some kind, as most Force Gnomes do. But
Everyone does, yeah.
You see sort of stacked up on one side of the workbench are a series of very thin, what are they called? Not pamphlets isn't the right word, but I don't know. Basically like papers that are bound together, but it's not a book exactly. Go ahead and make a perception check, Prudence. You can see, you recognize the telltale signs of a magical scholar. You can see, pieces of scrolls and occasionally a discarded napkin with a spell formula on it that's partially complete that she just came up with and had to write it down. 17. So you, looking around, you actually spot 2 items of interest. One, standard spellbook, has the symbol of, I'm blanking on the name, hold on. Look on the map, remember what it's called. It must be further away. Oh, Temsentinel. And you recognize the sort of symbol of the school at Temsentinel engraved into the front. That one looks relatively untouched. It's new and clearly hasn't been used that often. You do also spot on a desk in the corner of the room, not a book per se, but you see what appears to be a how do I even describe this? I have this image in my head and I don't have the vocabulary necessary to describe it. It looks like a mirrored cubic structure. And you just peer a little bit more closely and you can see in the structure are small etchings along the side of it. And it's definitely some kind of structure that you're familiar with. This type of magical storage. Calling it a spell book is a bit of a stretch, but you're familiar with the tricks that some paranoid wizards use to hide their knowledge. You are intimately familiar, in fact. Possibly. Alright. So the rest of you, Rurik, you don't have much trouble getting in. It's just fitting through the door because of the width is a bit of a problem, so you kind of have to turn to the side and shuffle in. Honoroy elects to stay outside, and he says, I don't know if I like small spaces.
Oh no, Honoroy's claustrophobic.
The habitants, like, the habitants say most of our hospitality for, you know, not necessarily gnomes, but just like people who live here, which tends entirely to be gnomes.
Yep. I mean,
but like, yeah, it's
there are definitely, like I mentioned before, there are definitely structures that are built to accommodate larger humanoids. This is not one of them.
yeah, it's not really magic racism. It's more magic small town disorder.
Yeah.
Like the juxtaposition of it being the structure of a normal human house, but not sized appropriately for them.
But tiny, yes.
It's a
right.
dollhouse.
So,
it's a gnome house.
And Hoyd, you can see, is having a bit of difficulty standing upright. He's doing his best to stay standing upright, but he has to like bend his knees a little bit and sort of bow his head and neck a little bit, but he's trying to stay as upright as possible.
And I crouch because I'm almost 6 foot.
Yeah, you're basically like you're basically like on both knees walking around this room, walking around this building.
Probably won't walk too far then, given the cramped quarters.
No. The building itself is a single room.
You'll be the last in
so-
and first out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll
So
just hang out by the door.
Yeah, you just hang out by the door. You are able to sort of pull to one side so that the door is open, and you can see Honoroi through it, and he's just sort of nervously looking at the structure. And you after a minute, you see him wander off sort of over to the side of the structure. And you see Roy turns to the rest of you, and she sort of does a quick little flicking motion, and in front of you, hovering in the air, is what appears to be a small teacup. And Zook, you've seen this before, so you grab it out of the air, and as you do, it materializes physically, and from the bottom begins to fill up with this type of tea. Oh yeah, you're not in the tavern anymore. I can turn off the tavern music. Although with this
Drink of it.
with this village, honestly, it still fits, but okay. Yeah, you sip the tea. It's about what you'd expected. It's a sort of lighter, fruity type. What do they call it? Botanical. It's a botanical tea.
I will partake if offered.
Okay. Yeah, so you both grab the teacup out of the air very gently because it is gnome-sized and it is very small for you. But it you know, as soon as you touch it, it goes from being this sort of ethereal, shiny sort of apparition, and it solidifies. So Prudence, you don't grab the you don't take the teacup at all.
I'm just thinking of that one scene from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah. So after a couple of seconds, if anybody who doesn't grab one, it just kind of dissipates. And
Magic continues to amaze me every time I'm exposed to it.
hey, there's a lot of different facets of magic, a lot of different ways you can interact with this interesting sort of part of the world.
As you may have surmised, being that my magic is of a divine nature, I am still rather new to magic as a concept, so I am continually fascinated by it.
She cocks her head. You're new to it. What, you didn't spend your whole life cloistered up in some monastery? Only seeing a girl once a year? You know how it is. She looks over to Zook. Is that what monasteries are like? I've only read about them.
I shrug. I don't know. It's like, you know as much as I do, you know?
Well, so Hoy, do you want to, Hoyd, as you guys enter the room, Roy summons these little ethereal teacups, and if you take one, it solidifies and begins to fill with this like light, airy botanical tea. Okay. I mean, those of you who partake, it's tea. It's good tea.
I like good tea.
It does taste slightly different to each of you. As with the first sip, it all tastes the same, and then the second sip, it's a little bit more to your liking, and by the time you get to the bottom, it is a drink that you like. It is a tea that you like.
It's an acquired taste.
Less of an acquired taste, and more
it's an acquiring taste.
It learns your taste.
It's an acquiring taste.
Yes, YouTube algorithm tea. You better watch out. You don't want to fall down that rabbit hole.
What a frightening concept.
You look at the bottom of the tea. You look at the bottom of the teacup, and the little leaves are forming in the shape of a Q, and it just says
it's like
water's making the frogs gay.
It's like you drink and you keep drinking, and then you're drinking chocolate tea, and you're like, wait.
When did this happen?
This tea brought to you by Raid Shadowlight.
During this whole time, Roy is just sort of like she's sort of looking at Rurik just from various different angles, almost mentally mapping the way your physicality is put together. She hasn't seen one of you and one of a dwarf in a while.
Afraid I don't come with any blueprints.
That's alright. I'm sure I can figure it out on my own. She kind of puts her fingers together. So, you said you had questions. Maybe I got answers, maybe I don't. She looks over to Prudence. And I got some questions of my own too. Why don't you go first? No, Hoyd, not like that. Good lord.
It's funny because I keep hearing about like the stereotypical D&D bard being the kind of charlatan that likes to sleep with everyone and everything they can. But I love how Hoyd doesn't really do much of that.
Well, yeah.
It's like we have two bards in our party, and neither of them are like that.
Yeah, because he's not promiscuous. Good lord. Princess,
That's
very
the
well.
word I was looking for.
Do you know where I could find some paying work around? I'm always in need of money. And she kind of cocks a sort of lopsided smile. She says, well, we've got plenty of money running around. Someone like you. I mean, no offense. She looks over to Zook. These people have all got an idea of what magic is, but you and me, we know different. We know there's something more to it. So, I suggest you just ask around. Or just listen. Listen for the sounds of a craftsman angrily trying to figure out how something works. I'm sure they'll come to you soon enough. That's most of what I do around here. I just wander around, listening for the wonderful sound of frustration. Burst onto the scene and fix their problem. It's almost always, they always forget the notation. They get the notation wrong. That's the problem. In programming terms, they always forget their damn semicolons.
It kind of makes her sound like some sort of gnomish vigilante superhero or something.
What? That reminds me. One time I was like debugging an error for like 10 entire minutes, and then I'm like, oh, it's because I didn't save the file.
Oh, you went and compiled the old version of the... Yeah, that happens all the time.
Well, no, it was an interpreted language. I just had it open in a text editor and didn't save it.
So when you ran it through the interpreter, it was still interpreting the old version of the file. I did that a bunch when I was designing the streaming site. I just never uploaded the new JavaScript. Prudence nods. I noticed you have a spell book from my alma mater. If you'd like, we could share some spells. And she...
I think
She
it's
looks-
alma mater.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm tired. Alma Mater.
Oh my god.
You're welcome.
For the poor.
You sound like a halfling.
Ooh, D&D racism. No. She looks at you very carefully, and she looks you up and down. Huh. Interesting. I didn't realize. Well. Huh. Maybe. Maybe. So, she just kind of tucks that thought away momentarily. Just files that away for future use. Alright, Dwarf. What you got for me? Rurik was your name?
I'm sorry, did you say Drurik?
Rurik. She
Oh,
rolled
okay.
the R. Rurik.
Okay.
Hey, I can roll my R's. Shut up.
I thought she said Rurik without the middle R. Just Rurik.
It's fucking... Okay, here's the thing. Esperanto, every R is rolled. Always. It is just a feature of the language, and it's so dumb, but I sometimes just reflexively do it, and it's awful. Anyway, go on.
This might sound a bit strange, but do you know anything of demonic rituals or the abyss?
He has a good reason to ask.
She
do have a-
glances
I do
right
have
over to
something
Zook.
ask, but it's nothing nefarious.
She goes right over to Zook. She looks right over to you, Zook, and says, "What kind of friends you be keeping?
Adventuring business.
Good lord."
We're hunting demons.
No, Prudence, no.
Big demons!
No.
We're demon slayers!
We're also looking for a dragon, apparently.
Yes.
Dragon.
Yes, that's the other thing.
Ouija!
She kind of shakes her head. The abyss is it's complicated. I mean, there's a lot to it. The problem with the abyss is that you go and you look up some information and you think you're getting somewhere, and then you realize, no, wait, this is about this layer of the abyss. Well, I wanted this layer of the abyss, and it's very hard. There's no that I've been able to find. There's no sort of central repository of the knowledge. So it really depends on what you're looking for.
Well, in that case, I will take that as a cue, and I will explain in greater detail about what it is we've been doing with respect to the victims of the soul absorption ritual and my efforts to find a way to undo its effects.
Okay. Yeah, so you give her the Cliff Notes version of what all of that is. And she says, huh. So, and now, I don't recall, so do you tell her about the connection to Baphomet?
Sure. I don't really think I have anything to lose by not mentioning that.
Okay. She kind of thinks for a moment. Baphomet? Huh. I thought... Hold on. And she holds up a finger and she rushes over to one of the bookshelves and kind of skims through a few of them. You can see as she's doing this, she pulls a toggle on one side of the bookshelf, and a few books, like 3 or 4 books, just slide out slightly. And she looks at the bindings of each of those and says no. And she pulls the toggle and sets it to a different level, and the 3 books to press back in, and 2 more pop out. And she grabs one of the books, and she skims over it. I don't have much about Baphomet, but the last time I heard the name, and she brings the book over to you, and it is not in a language you know, unfortunately.
Is it in Gnomish?
It is in Gnomish.
Because I know Gnomish.
You know Gnomish? Oh, well,
I do.
Fuck me sideways. All right, yeah, you know Gnomish. So you recognize the words that she points to at the page, and shut up, Boyd. The section of the book. You're not sure what the whole content of the book is, but the section she points to says, "Death of the Beast King." And she says, "The last time I read anything about Baphomet, it said he's dead."
Curious.
I don't know how recent this is. I haven't been able. She kind of closes the book and shows you the cover, and there's no title on the cover, and on the bottom, instead of sort of like toward the bottom, instead of an author name, you just see a small sigil, like an X that's just missing one of the legs on the bottom. So it looks like a backwards lowercase y almost. And she says, I don't recall where I got this, and I don't know how old it is, and I haven't been able to corroborate it, because the information on this stuff is so scattered, and frankly it's because I haven't left the village in quite some time. But he opens the book and flips back to the set of pages. It says that his domain his throne was usurped. It doesn't go into a lot of detail about what actually happened. It just says, and you're able to read this as well. It just says that he's dead now and something else has taken its place. But I guess if the cult of Baphomet has been gaining power, there must be something to it. So I don't know. Maybe this is all made up. I haven't been able to do some proper research in a long time. So this is all just extrapolation from limited information, if you will.
Maybe whoever took the throne pulled and I make a gnomish cultural reference that no one else in the room gets, and is like basically like stringing the cultists on, pretending that he's Baphomet.
So they pulled a shadow wink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. This is. She looks up at you, Rurik. This is kind of more your domain than mine, but there's that. I guess some avenue to explore. Explore. Good lord.
Based on my knowledge and findings,
I need more water. Sorry, go on.
yeah, based on my knowledge and findings of what I've discovered so far of Baphomet and his lore and entourage, would I be able to ascertain if he is currently dead, as the book would claim, or?
I'll say 2 things. First,
That would imply some means to communicate with Baphomet, which I sort of hope you don't have.
so 2 things. First, I'll say make a religion check. While you're doing that, I will also remind you, none of the information you've found since the beginning of the campaign has specified this.
Okay. Because I'm thinking back to my
Hoyd pipes up from the corner and says, "What about you could ask your benevolent Sky Daddy.
Benevolent Sky Daddy, yes.
You know, Pelor.
Ooh, or maybe he's pulled a pirate weasel and is like just like taken the name of Baphomet, and there's actually like a bunch of them.
Yeah, I forgot. Mark. What?
Okay.
You got my reference?
You got me there. You got me on that one.
I missed it because I was looking up something.
Pirate Weasel.
He'd made a Princess Bride reference.
Okay.
It took me a second to catch. That's why. All right. What was the religion roll?
It is 9.
Unfortunately, not. Pretty much the only knowledge you have of Baphomet has either been what you've been told or what you've researched since the start of this campaign. So this is kind of the first you're hearing of that. So.
Well, if it's true, then there's a high likelihood that this cult of Baphomet seeks his revival, which is definitely not good.
Perhaps. It's been known to happen.
It's been known to happen. Has this happened before?
It's been known to happen.
Oh, sure.
Damn it, so-
Tharizdun, the Raven Queen. There's a number of deities that have died and come back. Or been cast down and brought back. And there's a whole slew of them.
As I said, I'm still new to this.
Certainly are. You, my friend, need to do a little bit of reading on the Dawn War. She scurries over to the bookshelf again and doesn't pull the toggle. She just picks the book straight out and brings you a book over, and you can see on the cover is, interestingly, the symbol of Pelor emblazoned across the front. A bit simplistic, not quite as detailed as it normally is. And she says,
Well,
yeah.
I know that symbol quite well.
Learn you a little bit about your own religion. And she hands it to you. And it's in common, and it says A History of the Dawn War, Part 1. DAWN. Which you do recognize the phrase the Dawn War. You know that that was the near cataclysmic event in which the gods were divided into what you would now describe as the gods of the upper planes, the good gods, and the gods of the lower planes, the evil gods. The Dawn War is the event that sort of caused this actual split in the fabric of reality to make that happen.
Lovely.
So you know what happened. You just, you've only been doing this religion thing for a few years, so you're not
Basically,
familiar with
my
it.
knowledge of my own religion stems to that what was taught to me by the priests that I stayed with for a time.
More or less, yeah. And what's really
Religion is complicated in a polytheistic world.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna have to take a little bit to get you more information about the Dawn War, because the problem is, the Dawn War as an event exists across a lot of different campaign settings. It exists in both Greyhawk and in Forgotten Realms, and the Forgotten Realms version is very different than the Greyhawk version. So I have to try and find the Greyhawk version because the Forgotten Realms one is a lot more popular. So I'll get you more information about that.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing what information you know. I will definitely keep that in mind.
I will want that back, though. You can see a very conspicuous opening in the shelf where it came from. The books haven't collapsed in on it, but she will want that back.
Would it be alright if I borrowed it for the time being while we're in the village, and I will return it before we leave?
Sure. Absolutely. Alright,
A little bit of night reading.
yes, a bit of light reading. Of note, the book is like 2 inches thick, so...
Yes.
Yes, a bit of light bedtime reading. Well, so, what was this that I heard about a dragon?
Man, I had it written down.
Does
So-
Mr. One of the others want to explain it?
Selfsvar. Selfsvar is the name of the one we were expecting to be here.
Yeah, does the name Selfvar ring any bells for you?
Seltzvar, you're welcome.
Yes,
Um,
Yes, the Seltzer Dragon.
Seltzvar. Yes, so we'll wrap up this conversation, and then that'll be the end of the session tonight, because I need to sleep.
That's fine.
Seltzvar. She kind of... When you mention the name, you see her eye kind of twitch slightly, and she thinks... She says... What kind of dragon did you say? What kind of dragon you say she was? Green. Green dragon. Can't say I've seen one around lately.
Well, we encountered another green dragon named Ranfard up near my villa, and he tried to recruit us to come down here and drive out another dragon named Selfbar, but we came to check on it on our own. We're not looking for that other dragon, but we wanted to make sure there was nothing amiss here.
Naturally.
They do live a long time. Perhaps the time frame of the Dragon's Evolvement might have passed already?
So Prudence says, are you aware that the illusions obscuring the village have been disrupted in a way that made us unable to find our way in?
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah. They're in a different order, which was very confusing. I had to, basically blindfold myself and get my way in the hard way.
When you mentioned this about the village, she kind of gets this. So she sort of looks up and is just like thinking. That's interesting. That's not good, is it? Huh. I'll have to take a look at that later.
I wasn't sure who to bring that up to.
Well, they're not supposed to do that. I'll tell you that. So, No. Well, I
asked the chief if the path had changed, but she said it hadn't.
Yes. Eliwick hasn't asked me to change. Hasn't asked me or any of the other arcanists in the village to change the locks, if you will. But that is quite concerning. I'm sorry. If you'll excuse me, I actually, before it gets dark, I want to go and make sure everything's all right outside.
Of course, if you feel that's best.
So she kind of like gestures her head at the door.
Yeah, I'll shimmy myself out then, since I'm closest.
Walking backwards on your knees.
Take up a lot of room. Yeah.
All right.
I'm
gonna wait for Prudence to finish typing. Okay, cool. So you guys make your way out of the house, and you can see she steps out with you as well behind. She closes and locks, and it's just a traditional lock mechanism. And as she locks the door, she pulls the key out, and the house rises up into the tree level. And at this point, I will actually end the session. Unfortunately, short session today, so... alright. So, our next Friday session... Actually, I think... Zook, are you going to be out the 10th? Or is it the following week? Is it the 17th? Or the 24th?
Hold on, let me check.
I did remember, so...
Yeah, our next Friday session.
Yes, actually, the 10th I have a show I'm volunteering for a musical. So
All right. So, we'll be passing by that session and potentially having a session on the 24th, maybe. We'll see what people's availability is there, but I don't feel like getting into it. So, maybe the 24th, maybe not. Who knows? I'm also running a Monday game that's going to be running this upcoming Monday on the 29th. They start at 6 p.m. Eastern. So, as always, thank you guys so much for coming and watching, and thank you guys so much for coming and playing. Have a good night.